Hello, wonderful viewers. Welcome to another beautiful edition of Trep Talk. I'm your host, Ara Nimi. We're here, as always, to inform, to inspire, to educate, and promote the large community of entrepreneurs, business owners, change leaders in diverse sectors and across Africa. I talked about change leaders. Here today, we have some change makers in Nigeria who are changing different parts of the society. I'm here with Nigeria's first non-profit professional membership organization and Africa's most influential network of domestic staffing providers. That sounds interesting. So we have the executive members of AHEM. First, I'll start with the president, who is Mrs. Elizabeth Ajetumobi. Let's get to know about AHEM and the impact they are making in the society. Hello, moms. You're welcome to Trep Talk.
Thank you.
TrepAfrica. Imagine more.
Alright, so you all look stunning. I mean, you look beautiful and amazing.
You look great.
Thank you, ma. Thank you, ma. So, the Association of Household Employee Managers, AHEM. This is like the first time I'll hear about this, honestly speaking. I don't think I've heard of something like this in Nigeria. Just tell us briefly about yourselves and what AHEM is about. Let's start with you, ma.
Okay, my name is Elizabeth Ajetumobi. I'm the president of AHEM. And these are my amazing team members. We're all the ex-cos of executive members of AHEM Nigeria. And I have Barbara with me. She is the secretary of AHEM.
Okay.
And here is Chioma Nusubi. Chioma is the brand executive at AHEM Nigeria. And that's Mwobubu. She's the vice president of AHEM Nigeria.
Alright, nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you too.
Tell us more about what exactly does AHEM mean? Like, tell us more about what you do.
Okay. So AHEM is the Association of Household Employee Managers. It means that we're the umbrella body for all employee managers, businesses in the domestic staff industry. So we have domestic staff agencies, we have domestic staff training organizations, and AHEM is the umbrella body for all these businesses. And the reason why AHEM was created is to be able to address issues in the domestic staff industry. I'm sure you might have had experiences where people would complain about the domestic staff or where domestic staff complains about an employer. And these are some of the reasons why AHEM was established, to be able to address these issues and provide solutions to Nigeria's domestic staffing industry.
Can you share your startup story?
When I came into the industry, I realized that there wasn't anybody responsible for domestic staff business. So it was pretty much unstructured. People did whatever they liked. Employers, employees, and even businesses in the industry. And AHEM was birthed to be able to structure and guide every party, every stakeholder in the industry. Because if you agree with me, you see that most homes these days have double income families. And what that means is that you have a lot of women working now. And the fact that people are working doesn't mean that they are not having children. So what happens to the families? And there's been a huge demand for domestic staff in recent years. And since families are hiring more and more domestic staff, why don't we begin to guide them on ways to provide effective service? And that is one of the reasons why AHEM was born.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Ajetumobi. Mrs. Barbara, I love your smile.
Thank you.
So, Mrs. Barbara, I'd like to ask, so your focus for AHEM is basically on household employees. What problems are you or were you looking to solve? If you had to focus on household employees and nothing else, what problems are you looking to solve?
So there are lots of problems and lots of challenges with the industry. And this is the reason we came together to try and address these. Some of them include lack of professionalism, lack of data on domestic staff, badly behaved domestic staff, badly behaved employers, child abuse, and the list goes on and on. violence, domestic violence, on domestic staff, and so on and so forth. So those are some of the problems we come together to try to address.
Okay, let me just ask. You spoke about child abuse and the cases of domestic violence. Where does AM come in all of this?
We realize that apart from the Child Abuse Act that says that it is illegal to hire someone that is below 18 years,
Okay.
it is also, we found out that it's always not easy. The domestic staff's job is not easy in any way. That responsibility is really enormous. And if you do not have the mental stamina to be able to do it, the maturity, you need a certain level of maturity to be able to succeed as an effective domestic staff. So if you have someone who is still a child or almost a child, and you're asking this person to take charge of your home, what would you get? And these are some of the reasons why some people have called some of their staff witches and all. Because these are some of the experiences that we've had. I know of someone, in fact, this lady was a lady from Ghana, and then she hired this little girl. And she realized that she hired the girl to take care of her child. And then we got talking, we had some consultation, and then I told her that this child is too young for you. Because she was always complaining, I want to train my staff. I said, you can't train that girl. She's too young. And then she said, she's family, she's a distant relative, and she kept her. And what happened was, like a year later, she called me, she had another child at this spot. And it was then she realized that the girl was abusing her son. Yes. And it was very messy. She was like, okay, the girl, they took her for deliverance. And I said, no, what is happening is that girl should be with her parents. But the truth of the matter is that you are the one, you have left your home, you have taken her in. That child, because it's confusing. Is she a domestic staff? She doesn't have the maturity to do the work. So one of the reasons why a lot of people keep saying, they keep tagging domestic staff, I had one, she was a witch, she was a that, it's because of this issue of underage staff. You cannot hire an underage staff to do the job to take care of your home. Running a home, even for an adult, is a lot of work.
These are one of the challenges. So even as adults, you can tell that one of the challenges we have in Nigeria is that we have sincerely a very poor work culture. So a lot of people go to work and they are not even taught from school, from home, how to behave at work. Respecting of boundaries. So these things are things that you find a lot of employers trying to teach their domestic assistant, even the mature ones, how to respect boundaries, how not to beat their children, how to speak, and also the employers themselves also, a victim of this environment and society also do not respect their own boundaries as well.
I was going to say that. Yeah. So one of the things that we promote in AM is that a domestic staff should have a resumption time and a closing time. Even though they live in your home,
yes,
it should be clear.
So you don't overlabel them.
Don't keep them
Have you ever seen a machine working from morning till midnight every day, 24/7, 365 days?
Unacceptable.
That machine is even going to break down, not to talk of a human being like you.
Yeah.
So there should be a time when they know that, okay, this is the time I resume, and this is
Close.
the time I close from work. But what we find is that is not the case. And then we have issues with some employers who feel like they cannot be corrected. And these are some of the things. There's this notion of, I am hiring a slave.
I think that's where our focus on child abuse also comes to play.
Okay.
Because it's easier for an adult to be able to manage an abusive situation, know what to do, as opposed to a child. So if an adult is being slapped, or being excessively verbally abused, she knows that this is wrong, and she knows what recourse to take. She knows that they call an agent. She's not intimidated. That's more difficult and more challenging for a young child. It's easier for her to be intimidated. It's easier for her to keep quiet when there's abuse. It's easier for her to comply. So these are some of the reasons why. And please, even though I say her, please know that our focus is on boys and girls. male and female.
In fact,
because we have male domestic staff.
Yeah, something happened. In fact, relating to a boy recently. We have this notion of I'm coming from the village. My parents are in the village. They give somebody in Lagos to take care of my child and all of that. So this foster care.
kind of thing.
And this boy was living with someone in Lagos, and the boy felt that he wanted to get a job. And when his foster dad heard about it, he arrested this boy.
What?
Yes, the boy was beaten. He was taken to yes.
Why?
He was yes
Because he felt that he was actually he helped the boy. So the boy just can't leave his house like that without getting a job. So he wanted the guy to work under him without paying him. So that's also one of the issues.
That's not good. That's wicked.
So we're also looking at issues of discrimination and stigmatization.
Yes, there is.
And it cuts across all sectors, the social sector, cultural, even at the high places. Imagine having the Nigerian labor law referring to domestic workers as domestic servants. It doesn't go right. You don't use the word servant. It's very defamatory. So it creates kind of inferiority between the employers and the employee. So it makes the employee feel that they can actually do whatever they like. And also the agencies too are not helping the fact that they don't have structures. They don't have structures in place like resumption time, closing time. So this also makes the employers have notion that they can actually use staff the way they want.
TrepAfrica. Imagine more.
Okay, so the reason I asked that question is there's a write up there that says speak up for safety, report all forms of abuse, and you mentioned some instances, some cases. What exactly is the role of AHEM in the midst of all of this?
So AHEM guides. So like I said, we usually have like forums, in-house forums where we talk about these things, and then we come up with solutions. So one of the solutions that we have come up with is that each agency or organization should have their code of conduct. So for instance, you need to feed your staff. You need to feed them at least 3 times a day.
Okay.
You need to give them comfortable accommodation. You need to make them safe in your home. Then you would need to, so if a staff is going through any form of harassment or sexual exploitation, we've created open lines for them to come in and report such. So you go to your agency and you report if things like this are happening. Don't keep quiet because we are not going to take it. And then we've seen situations where we've moved employees from employers' homes.
Now, according to your profile,
Yes.
AHEM members include all domestic staff, as nannies, the housekeepers, the drivers, and all. Okay, yet AHEM is a non-profit organization, so I am trying to bring together these ideas and trying to marry them. How does that work?
Because it's actually a body. AHEM is a body that represents all the domestic staffing agencies in Nigeria. More like a place where they can get education, they can know the laws, the regulations for running their businesses. They can get more information to be more professional, making sure that we're trying to meet up with international and global standard. So AHEM is a body that educates them, empowers them, and then a place for networking, learning, also knowing how to do their business right.
Okay, so when you talk about industry professionals, what do you mean exactly?
Industry professionals like doctors, medical lawyers, medical organizations
who are members of your
Yes.
team.
In fact, we even have partners as well. Because, for instance, one recurring problem or challenge that we've been experiencing is when a domestic staff gets tested, so before the domestic staff is deployed to a home, they usually have this medical examination. So sometimes we find out that some people are HIV positive, hepatitis they have their careers.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we've been able to do successfully in AHEM is that instead of allowing these people just go back into the society and go untreated, we have partners and organizations that will refer them to where they can get free treatment.
Free.
Yes, so we have organizations that help treat tuberculosis, HIV, and hepatitis.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's really a nice one, actually. I must say you're doing well.
Thank you.
Alright, you've said a whole lot of things about AHEM. AHEM is this, AHEM is that. But in clear terms, I'd like to know the mission of your organization and your core values.
The mission of AHEM can actually basically categorize into three. We have improving capability and welfare of the domestic workers. We're also looking at satisfying and ensuring safety of their employers, and also regulating, restructuring, and the growth of domestic agencies and businesses in the industry.
So I know you talked about the vision of AHEM. What are your core values, your specific core values?
Our core values are transparency, fairness, and equality.
Let me come back to Mrs. Elizabeth Ajetunmo. I understand that you are an HR consultant and you're also the president of AHEM, of course. What are those potentials that you look out for in a candidate?
So I think competence, character, that's the willingness to learn.
Okay.
That positive attitude, that can-do attitude, adaptability. Like you see what happened with COVID. No one saw COVID coming, but it came. You know, for unforeseen things, how do you manage? And you come to a house, you had a plan for the day, something unexpected happens. How would you cope? Now, we need domestic staff that are also dependable, trustworthy, people that have integrity.
That's really important.
Integrity. Very true. Yes, and those people also that have a good work history. Because it's also one of the major challenges in the industry where, you've been, where were you working before? Oh, my former madam traveled. And then that's like the cliche story we hear from most people across agencies. So even if your agency is in Abuja now, it's the same excuse. Oh, where's your former employer? Can we get in contact with your former? Oh, she traveled. So people are not able to provide like proper documentation, or they cannot really talk about their work history.
The employers are not always the problem. Sometimes even the domestic staff.
Sure.
Yes, of course.
Sure.
A lot of times.
Sometimes the domestic staff are the problem. Sometimes the employers are the problem. Sometimes the businesses also are the problem.
The organization.
So, because let's not forget that we have a lot of undocumented agents out there.
Yes, and unprofessional.
Yes, and they are even more than the structured agencies that you and so those are also part of the people we want to reach, because we've had situations where people, because the agent is undocumented, you hear things like, okay, you can go to that house, you can plan, and then they can cause harm, they can kidnap someone, and that's why we encourage employers to please use only registered agencies.
So for AHEM, how's the journey been so far? Is it encouraging? How's it been basically?
To be honest, it's been encouraging. It's been encouraging. So on the forum where we discuss, we have over 50 agencies, businesses that meet regularly just to be able to improve things. And I think that's phenomenal.
Yes,
in 1 year, we've gained a lot of ground. Like we said, a lot of agencies are beginning to put more structures into their businesses. Employers are saying that, things are improving. Even domestic staff are saying that, you cannot just misbehave in Abuja and run to Lagos, and then it's not business as usual.
The first time I heard about the vision, I was very impressed. I was happy because it's another huge industry in Africa where we have a lot of people who are not well educated, who are also looking for a source of livelihood, and most of them also end up doing these domestic services. And it's important that we put structure into it and make it more professional, and so that they can also know that there's dignity in labor, and they can also believe in themselves and not look down on themselves, and not feel like they cannot become anything they want to become just because they are domestic workers. So most of them earn as high as what bankers earn. As some domestic assistants are being paid from 50, 60, some banks pay 50,000 for young entry, for new entry. Some domestic assistants earn up to 80, 100, some of them. Some of the chefs, they earn 150, 80,000, 100,000. So if you're earning that kind of money and the same amount most graduates leaving school are earning, I don't see any reason why you should not have structure in your savings, you should not live better, you should not try and raise up good children for your family if you have children. So I really want them to see it as a job, even if it's something they're doing for a short time, for 5 years or 3 years. They can make money, save it, build a business from there, and then if they decide to continue, they can continue, or they can do something else.
So I know there is always a challenge to most things in life. So what are those challenges that you have faced or that you are still facing in AHEM?
I think awareness is a problem. Because of the new agency, a lot of people don't know so much about AHEM, and some people are confused about what we do. They're not very clear. And I think we need a lot of financial support as well. We need international agencies.
But one area in which we need support is in the area of government policies. So imagine that there was some sort of arrangement such that domestic staff can have pensions, savings. They can have access to medical care, they have access to maybe maternity leave. Really, because who says that a domestic staff cannot go on maternity leave?
Mrs. Barbara, let me come to you now. What has been your major achievement? Talking about AHEM now, what's been your major achievement in the whole process since you started, and what has made you members of AHEM more intentional about keeping up to your goal?
One of our major achievements is the fact that we've been able to bring together a group of like-minded people. I mean, the fact that this association even exists is a miracle, and it's a blessing, to be able to bring people that feel the same way, that have the same passion, that have the same desire for change. It's definitely one of our biggest achievements.
You've spoken about challenges that you have faced coming along, and what is that lesson that you think is most important for any startup organization? It might be an NGO, a business, or whatever. What is that lesson that you think is most important for them to learn, and how has it helped you?
Without a vision, I don't know what you will do. Vision has to be clear. Once you have a clear vision, it makes things easy. It doesn't mean things will always be easy, because there will be times when you're going through a rough patch. But when you understand why you started that business, it just helps you to refocus.
So this question I want to ask now, I don't want it to look like all AHEM ESCOs are just all serious. It's basically all about household employees. Exactly. Tell us fun facts about each of you.
Okay. So I love dancing, I love partying, and I love traveling.
I like talking, I like hanging out with my friends, I like restaurant hopping, so I always like to know the latest restaurants and where to take my daughter to play.
I like wine tasting.
Wow,
And food tasting too. And beach parties.
that's all me.
And I love dancing too.
So, fun fact about me, I love karaoke. Love date nights out with my husband and karaoke with my kids at home. Fantastic. Something else that nobody probably knows is that I have a twin brother.
Wow.
Completely unidentical, but yeah.
Now let's take my last question before we wrap this all up. If you had one piece of advice to a startup change agent, to other people in line of what you're doing, you're making impacts in the society, what would it be? What would that advice be?
I think never give up, tough time to come. And when they come, go back to the drawing board and look at why you started the vision. And also make sure you talk with other change makers. They talk with a lot of change makers and never compare your vision with another person's vision. You prioritize yourself first by taking care of your body, your mind, and your soul, and then you can also pour into other people.
My advice to change makers is to always remember that the end goal is service. Service will take you far in everything you do.
Consistency, we usually start strong, most people start strong. The challenge is, and it's actually a Nigerian problem, is maintaining, the standard at which you started. So my advice is to make sure, regardless of what is going on, make sure you maintain your high standards.
I think a clear vision, because that is key, and then celebrate the small wins. And my final words: service is everything, and that's what we stand for at AHAM.
I believe there is no higher religion than service to humanity. And of course, you agree with me that life's most urgent question will be, what are you doing for others? Yes, I ask you, what are you doing for others? For AHAM, it's about bringing hope and changing the narrative of some specific people in the society. Let me ask you one more time, what are you doing for others? Thank you so much for joining us today on Trep Talk series with Aranimi. Don't forget you can connect with us on our social media platform on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at TrepAfrica, or visit trepafrica.com/Trep Talk for sponsorship and to get featured. Thank you so much for joining us today on Trep Talk series. I remain your host, Aranimi. Bye for now. Keep trapping and imagine more.
TrepAfrica. Imagine more.